I'm standing on the lawn behind Chester Cathedral. Now the reason I'm on the back lawn, where there's picnickers scattered in around underneath the shady trees, is because on the other side of this cathedral is a square of cobblestones filled with marketplace sellers and filled with tourists looking for bargains and memories. And this is not unusual for a cathedral. Not just in England, but in different parts of Europe and sometimes in North America, the church or the cathedral would actually become the community marketplace or the courtyard for sellers, for book buyers and sellers, sometimes for preachers or teachers, for philosophers, and of course for all the little things that we needed: fruit and vegetables, woolens, clothes, and all different things that were traded from around the world. Well, Chester Cathedral is perhaps a destination because of its history and because of the way that it works with this community. Chester means, in the ancient languages, in Latin, Chester it was a camp. And anything with a Chester at the end, like Winchester or Colchester, meant that there was a camp, a Roman camp there. The Romans came and settled in England in the first century of the Common Era, maybe 1950 years ago. And they weren't a Christian people at that point, they were a pagan people. And they set up these camps all over Great Britain, all over England. And this town, to this day, still has Roman roads and a canal that was forged by the Romans, and the Roman walls in the canal are still in place, including one of the bridges. Now, Chester Cathedral isn't that old. The Romans came to a pagan Celtic people, and they had largely adopted religions together and ruled in this area from this camp for a few hundred years before they began to move out. Over time, the local population Christianized because of monks that came to visit, or missionaries, or mostly through word of mouth. And eventually, we don't know when, a cathedral or a basilica was built on this place. Over time, that disappeared, another one was built, and in the late 11th century burned down. When we got a little bit later into the late Middle Ages, this cathedral was begun in the late 1200s and took over 250 years to complete. It's built mostly of the red sandstone like you would see in Prince Edward Island churches and Prince Edward Island buildings, but actually has different architecture styles all throughout. It's a huge cathedral, fully a block long, with a tower over 137 feet high. It's an incredible feat of architecture and is filled with beauty, but really what is interesting about it is how it became the center of the community. A cathedral in the Church of England means the city center, as it did in much of the Roman Catholic world. And so that means that Chester, even though it was just a small town at the time, became a city in the way that the world was organized at the time. And now still remains today the smallest cathedral city in England. This becomes the center of community life, not just for worship and teaching, celebration, feast days and fast days and festivals, but became the community life for all aspects of trade, politics, communication, and really becoming what would be the Cheshire and Chester community. And so cathedrals play this really important role. So even today on the other side, where thousands of people are gathering, there's buskers and sellers and trinket sellers and markets. Even today, this still remains the center of life in parts of England and of Europe.